Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rehinita Koko, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my story on how I became fluent in the Spanish language. So please do stick and stay. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, also comment, like and share with your friends. So let's get into the video. Now, a little background to my Spanish language journey. So I have actually been doing French, let's say almost my entire academic life until University of Ghana, level 100, and I had no background, I had no knowledge about the Spanish language until I got into the university where I had to study Spanish, French and political science. So I began the course, I started learning the Spanish language. It was quite easy for me to understand. I think when we got to level 2 or 300 or so, our lecturers would speak purely Spanish. There was no English and you had to guess what they were trying to communicate. Now, when I got to level 200, I decided that I was going to drop the French language because I noticed that the French was gonna give me some problems. Some of the lecturers and the way they were doing their stuff, well, I wasn't too sure if I was going to be able to cope with that. And then I also realized that the Spanish language was quite cool for me, and so I had to drop French for Spanish. And I did that because I felt Spanish was easy, and I also wanted to maintain good grades because comparing my Spanish grades to French grades, Spanish was quite okay. As a level 100, I was doing way better in Spanish than in French. So I decided that I was going to drop the French language and just focus on, Spanish. And after all, when I'm done with school, there's a little friend say I could, enroll and continue learning the French language. I dropped French and then I continued with Spanish and political science at the time, and I was just studying so that I can pass, graduate and leave university. And so that was what I was doing. Even as at level 400, I had no single intention of doing something in Spanish after school. I just wanted to pass and go. And I also wanted to at least have some knowledge in the Spanish language, a fair idea kind of thing. So I didn't really drop it because I had the option to, again, drop Spanish and just major in political science. But I decided to still combine major the two. And so that was what I did until my completion or level 400. But when I was doing my national service, I was just thinking, and I was like, so am I going to just let all of my 4 years of learning Spanish just go like that? I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that, because I paid 4 good years to learn Spanish and political science. So even though I was, TAing in political science, I still wanted to keep the language. And so yes, I decided to teach people Spanish for free because I felt that it was going to be one of the ways that would keep me connected with the language. I can, communicate basic Spanish. I can understand, I think to intermediate level sort of. And so I felt like, why don't you just teach what you know? You don't have to know everything before you start teaching the language. And at the time, I was so nervous and scared because I also thought of, starting a YouTube channel where I teach Spanish. And the things that were going through my mind, you are not, number one, you're not a native speaker of the language. Number two, you don't even live in a country where they speak the language, so that at least you can say that, okay, you are in contact, with the language and you can easily teach it like that. I was not in any Spanish speaking country. But hey, before then, I think while in school, I had the opportunity to intern with one of the Spanish speaking embassies in Ghana. So at least I still have some little sort of contact with the language in a way. And so, all these things were running through my mind. You are not that perfect. You are not a native speaker. You haven't even been to any Spanish speaking country. So why do you want to take that risk? And not only do you want to teach, but you also want to start a YouTube channel where the whole world is likely going to see the things you're teaching out there, and people who really understand the language can easily criticize you when you make a little mistake. So these were the things that were going through my mind. But somehow I just ignored everything. I'm like, I'm just gonna start anyway. I'm going to just teach what I know, because what a school did to me was that it took me through the foundation of the language. One thing about the language is that you need to understand the foundations. You need to know the key things that make up the language, so that anywhere you find yourself, you're able to from your own sentences, you're able to communicate, you're able to understand the connections between the words that are put together, what we call the sentence structure sort of. And so at least I have that, and I can speak to a certain degree, because you are compelled. Back in school, you are compelled to make presentations in Spanish. Your colleagues are speaking Spanish. You have to understand. The lecturer speaks no English. The lecturer speaks Spanish throughout the entire class period. And so somehow I think that I was okay with the language. That was what actually gave me some level of confidence to still go ahead with teaching the language online. But it wasn't really just about teaching the language, because at the end of the day, you are not being taught in school anymore. So the question is, how are you going to keep up with the language? How are you going to make sure that you improve? How are you able to make sure that you are better than how you were at the time? So these are some of the things that way I was asking myself. And so I began teaching Spanish, and as at the time was COVID 2020, so we're all home, working from home at the time, and I started teaching people for free. A lot of people signed up, because who doesn't want free things? So yes, I got so many people signing up to learn Spanish for free, and it was so effective. I used the kind of structure where if you're not serious, you're out of the game, because we wanted to just maintain those that were serious. And so if you start and we realize that you're not serious, you're not doing activities and assignments, you will not be part of the subsequent classes. So that was how we made it, so that we're able to see those that are serious and those that are not serious. So this happened for quite a while, and eventually we got people that were serious, we got people that were more interested, people that were committed to learning the language. And so that was how we began by La Casa. No, it was first Spanish Rehinita, and after 2 years or 3 years or so, we had to rebrand to La Casa de Español. So if you go on YouTube right now, you type La Casa de Español, or you go to Instagram, Facebook, you type La Casa de Español, you're gonna see us over there. And so yes, you can enroll in Spanish. But now what I really want to talk about is the things that I do that keeps me up with the language on a daily basis, that also helps me to improve. Because as I sit here ahora, I am way better than I used to be when I started speaking Spanish, because there were a number of measures that I put in place that was able to help me improve in the language. So I'm going to mention just a few of them, and I hope that as you listen and watch, you would also try and put these things into practice. If you are someone who wants to learn a language, particularly French or Spanish or any other language, you can still use these strategies that I use to keep myself up with the language. So the first thing I'll talk about is that I practice Duolingo on a daily basis. Yes, so currently I am on a 640 something streak. This whole year, I think I just missed 5 days spread out in the month, 5 days, but I have been consistent. And these days that I missed was for one or two reasons. It wasn't really deliberate, because I made the efforts to make sure that every single day I practice something on Duolingo. And the thing about Duolingo is that it helps you to learn new words, it helps you to learn new phrases, it just helps to keep up with the language. If you are someone who is a beginner and you are starting with Duolingo, it's okay, but I think it will be more advisable that you enroll in a course that will take you through the systematic process of learning the language and knowing the fundamentals or the foundations of the language. So Duolingo becomes more like an adapt to what you already know. So yes, I was doing Duolingo. I do Duolingo every single time, and I always encourage my students to always practice Duolingo because it's so helpful. But you don't substitute it with enrolling in a course that will take you through the journey of learning a language, right? Now the next thing I actually do, I'm a Christian, so I read the Bible in Spanish as well. Yes, I do that a lot of the time. So that is how, I keep up with the language or make sure that I improve. In every aspect of life, the language of that field is different from, the language of another field. So words that you are likely to hear when it comes to religion could be pecados, could be, what else? El Espíritu Santo, could be El Señor, Dios, and words like that. So you need to make sure that you familiarize yourself with, let's say, the words that are in a certain field that you are interested in. So when you find yourself in a place where you have to translate or you have to speak or someone is speaking to you, easily understand because you engage yourself in that field that you find, interesting. Another thing that I do to make sure that I improve in the language is by listening to music. I listen to Spanish music. Now if you are a gospel music lover just like me, one of the things I listen to is Maverick City. Maverick City do have most of their English songs translated to Spanish. So usually I would listen to the Spanish version, sing along and stuff like that. So then another thing I also do to make sure that I improve in the language is by watching movies, in Spanish. That is very, very key because movies encompasses aspects of life where you're able to really get the language. And so you want to make sure that if you are learning a language, you attach it to a movie. And normally Netflix do have the how do you call it, the feature where you can change the audio to Spanish, and even the subtitle you can change it to Spanish or to English, whichever way you want to learn the language. So these are some of the things that I do personally to make sure that I keep up with the language. I also follow Spanish people on Instagram. I follow Spanish embassies, I follow Spanish countries, yes, I follow Spanish chefs, because language is a language. You need to make sure that it forms part of you. You don't do it separately from the classroom and so on and so forth. So these are some of the things that I do to make sure that I always keep up with the language. And so you might also want to try these tricks as well. I'm sure it will help you very well to improve upon your language. So thank you so much for listening to my video to this point. I will see you again in my next video. And before I go, please, if you want to learn Spanish, make sure that you sign up with La Casa de Español. We are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. But you can contact us on Instagram. You can just send us a DM. I'll place the handle somewhere in the video so you can reach out to us and register. You can register your word, you can register yourself. We do have lessons for all categories of people, so it doesn't matter whether you are grown up or you're a child, you can still register to learn Spanish. In another video, I'm going to be sharing with you why I think you should learn Spanish. So please don't go anywhere. Make sure that you sign up with us to learn Spanish today. Thank you. Bye.